And we're back. You know, it's said in this neck of the woods that if you look up the word broadcaster, the first picture that's going to pop up is our next guest. Welcome, please, and welcome to you, John. John Erling, it's good to have you.
Thank you, Sam. Nice to be back again. I've been here before, as a matter of fact.
That's right, you have.
Yes, I have.
And we're here to talk about your book. This is book number 2, called Voices of Oklahoma. For those of you who have not had a chance to get a copy, please get it. Run right out now, waddle on over to the bookstore and pick up a copy. Tell us what it's about, John.
Well, it features 60 people that we have on our website. I've interviewed 270 on the web for the website. 100 of those people are no longer living, which emphasizes the reason we're doing this kind of thing. We still have their voices. So we did volume 1 about 3 years ago, and now this is volume 2, and we have 60 voices, names, and it tells a portion of the story. And then for the rest of the story,
Paul.
Thank you, then you go to the website. It'll lead you to the website. It's a tease, is what it is. Now, for those who don't have Wi-Fi or don't have anything, don't have a computer or whatever, they buy this book on Amazon.com. In Tulsa, it's at Ida Red on Peoria and also Snow Goose in Utica Square. But if you just read the book, you would learn so much about the great state of Oklahoma and the great people we have in our state. Like and we have it broken down categories: music, military, healthcare. Under the category of music, we have Roy Clark, Billy Parker, Jana Jay, Jim Halsey, Ramona Reed. Billy Parker, for instance, he talks about he was working for Quick Trip, and he was mopping the floor one night, and KXMJ was on, and he heard them say, "We're looking for a part-time disc jockey." And he'd been doing some singing, but he wasn't supporting himself by it. He says, "I dropped the mop, and I got on that road, kicked up a bunch of dust, and I got there before anybody else could, and I said, I'm the guy." And that's how he got into radio. Isn't that something?
That's a great story.
Right. Speaking of that, Clayton Vaughn of Channel 6, he's no longer with us. He grew up in Cushing, went to Cushing High School. He got into radio because he was in high school, and a new radio station placed in Cushing, 1000 Water. And they said, "Do you have anybody in high school that would be interested in radio?" So his speech teacher came to him and said, "I think you should go out there and talk to those people." And bingo, just like that. That's how he got into news, and then he went KAKC and the big run that they had years ago.
John, yours is an idea that when people hear about it, because I'm one of them, I'm guilty. I said, gosh, I wish I'd thought of that. Great idea.
Yes, it is a great idea. And I'm so happy that I have this idea. I can work every day doing it. I interview new people all the time. Working on an interview now with Mary Helen Stanley of Stanley Funeral Homes from years ago. She's 101 years old, and if you listen to that interview, you would never know she's 101 years old. She is absolutely amazing.
What do you learn, John? What do you learn about people? Because I know you're a people person. What do you pick up from folks you interview?
These people that are so successful are workers. They have to have something to do. These people will live into their 80s, 90s, yes, centenarians. They're very active, and the people that I interview are very clear of mind, and many of them are, of course, in their 80s and 90s, but they're very active, and they are worker bees, and that's one thing.
And we've got to have them.
We've got to have them, but I've also learned that the arts, people who can sing and paint and so forth, that comes to them at a very early age. Somebody doesn't wake up at 45 and start singing, nor generally do they start painting. It always comes at an early age. And so for those of you who are watching and you spot that in a youngster, please encourage it, because that's the start of it. Charles Banks Wilson, I interviewed him years ago. He's not in the book, he started drawing under his mother's table so she wouldn't see it. And he'd draw under the mother's table and then get by with it because he just had to draw. And of course, he drew Will Rogers from Life. He says it's the only Will Rogers from Life painting and all that. So those are some of the things I've learned. In the book, can I say what's in the book?
Certainly. There is a drawing of Will Rogers on the bottom of a table in Miami, Oklahoma, that he did.
Charles Banks Wilson.
Yeah. And he told me the story of how it happened. One more story I'll share with you. He said that he was always looking for hats. Did he mention the hat story to you?
No.
And a guy came in with a hat that he just had to have. It was an old silk top hat, and he didn't have one. And he said, "What would you take for it?" He said, "Oh, gee, I don't know, man, maybe 50, 75. And he said, I went into a rage. I was angry. This man's supposed to be a friend of mine. 50, 75, what are you talking about? I'm not paying that kind of money. He said, well, 25 cents. Would you do 25 cents? He said, I felt like I was that tall,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So you get all kinds of answers when you do interviews.
Yeah, you do. But we talk about the media in our book. Michael Wallace, we know him, and he talks about how he won a writing contest, and he was able to sit in the dugout of the St. Louis Cardinals with Stan Musial sitting right over here. And so he knew writing was what he wanted to do, and now he's Mr. Route 66. We have Law and Order. Stephanie Seymour. She was made it to the first female on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeal. And they were considering candidates for this. And the leader of the group said, all right, let's throw out names that we don't think are qualified. And he threw out Stephanie Seymour. Well, the rest of us think she's qualified. Why isn't she qualified? Because she has 4 children. So they went around the horn, and so the other person threw out a name that the leader knew he liked. He said, why don't you like him? He's qualified because he has 5 children. And so that neutered that story about male and female, and ultimately Stephanie Seymour became the first one on the Supreme Court.
As you interview these folks, do you ever walk away with your eyebrows kind of in painful limbo because they've raised them, or you've had to raise them at their responses?
How do you mean?
If you ask someone just a general question, and they come back with a profound answer, have you had that happen to you yet?
I may have, and I forgot it.
I forgot you're a year older than I am.
Right.
Age gets us all, doesn't it?
Right. Clifton Talbert, and he wrote many books. He wrote the book yesterday, When We Were Colored. He was a cotton picker. He picked cotton till he was 15 years old. And David Green of Hobby Lobby, he picked cotton as a youngster. David Green's a great story.
And you never lose the scars from picking cotton. I don't care what anybody says, you wear those scars proudly.
Yes, yes, they do. Joy Harjo, poet laureate for the United States. She went to Tulsa Public Schools, and she talks about wearing jeans when nobody wore jeans in school, and she was the one who started wearing jeans. And she went on to become a poet and an advocate for Native Americans and all that. It's in the book. I love that when everybody says it's in the book. Dale McNamara, she started the golf program at TU, and what she went through to get it started. Williams Companies actually helped her get started so that she could have enough money for bags and uniforms and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I am very happy that this is our volume 2. I didn't know that we were going to be doing another one, but we did. And everybody says, aren't you going to run out of stories? No.
No.
We are a state now, I think of 4 million, they just said. And we have many, many stories. And I have been interviewing about 11 or 12 a year because I also have to edit and all that kind of thing. I'm a one-man band on all this. I do have some helpers with me. But it's been a pure joy and a learning experience. I don't know how much time I have here, but I have a great story to tell you. If it's
I want to hear it.
all right. I recently interviewed about 2 months ago Charlie Soap. Charlie Soap was the husband of Wilma Mankiller, first female chief of the Cherokee Nation. Wilma Mankiller was the first interview we put on our website, now nearly 15 years ago. And so Charlie Soap said, Bell, Oklahoma was a depressed area, very, very poor, and they did not have running water there. So Wilma said to Charlie, why don't you go there and see what we can do about bringing running water to that community? So he goes in the community and he kind of surveys and looks around and says, yes, when they found a source of water 18 miles from Bell. And so they would have to dig a trench about 1.5 feet deep. And so he needed to get all these people working together, and they'd take them in 2-mile lengths. And pretty soon, this person over here says, well, there's Frank. I don't like him. We don't want to work with him. We've been fighting all these years. And lots of people in the community said, we don't want to work with these people. So Wilma said to Charlie, you just have to make it happen. Go back and tell them they're going to make it happen. So they started digging. And pretty soon, the next community, part of it, they had 2-mile stretch. And they said, well, how long did it take for these people to do it? Well, we're going to do it in 5 days sooner. Than it became a competitive thing. So these people, the Hatfields and McCoys, that were working side by side, but they didn't like each other, soon began to like each other. And as Charlie Soap said, they became pretty good fishing buddies. Isn't that a great story?
That's a great story.
To bring people together, new water and new friends. And so then they went on to other communities and did it in other areas. And that Charlie Soap, I'll have him on the website soon. It's just a handsome Native American,
He looks the
beautiful, beautiful man, Hollywood handsome, with a very sweet spirit, has done a lot of things in the community without much money.
We got about a minute, John. Where are you going to take this? How far?
You mean the whole website?
No, the whole idea.
The whole idea. We just keep doing it till I can't do it anymore. I have enough energy to keeping on. I have about 7, 8 names now that I'm looking at that are coming up for the next year. We just keep doing it till we come up with enough here to have volume 3. But right now it's volume 2, and the proceeds from the book go to producing more stories. That's the nice little roundabout of this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. How many times have you had folks knock on the door and say, hey, I'd be a good candidate?
I have had a couple do that. Most are probably too humble to do that. And when you reach them, they say, do you want to really talk to me? Yes, I do, because I know a lot about you. I know about as much about them when I come to the interview as they do, because I do a lot of research. It takes me at least 2 days before an interview. So I pretty much set aside a week for the interview. And you have to prompt people, because you can't just tell somebody to start talking about your life. And they say, oh, yeah, how did you know that? You know, well, the internet is great, and you pick up all this great information about people. So I come fully researched. Greg Spahn was the son of Warren Spahn. And he just died. And he told his story about Warren and all that. Warren Spahn, the greatest left-handed pitcher. But I have Greg telling the story.
John, we're out of time. Dadgummit, I wish we had more. Will you do it again?
I will do it again. It's good to see you, Sam.
It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen.
And listen, this is where it all started, right here on radio.
Oh, remind me. I'll tell you a story. We get off the air. That's it. We're out of time. My thanks to John Erling, a man I've admired and respected for so many years, who will never do a story on me. We're gonna close it by saying thank you, John.
That's you.
And thank you for the great work you're doing.
Thank you very much.
It's very much needed. We'll see you back here next time.